Picture this. You're 6 months into what feels like the perfect relationship. Your partner is charming, attentive, and seems to understand you better than anyone ever has. But lately, something feels off. You can't quite put your finger on it, but you find yourself walking on eggshells, second-guessing your own thoughts, and feeling like you're losing yourself piece by piece. You brush it off as relationship growing pains, but deep down, something is screaming that this isn't normal. What if I told you that you might be experiencing one of the most dangerous forms of psychological warfare that exists in modern relationships? What if I told you that the person you trust most could be systematically destroying your sense of reality, your self-worth, and your ability to think independently? And what if I told you that millions of people are trapped in these toxic dynamics right now, completely unaware that they're being manipulated? Today, I'm going to expose the hidden world of partner manipulation. I'm going to show you the exact tactics that manipulative partners use to gain control over their victims. And more importantly, I'm going to give you the tools to recognize these patterns before they destroy your life. This isn't just relationship advice. This is psychological survival training that could save you from years of emotional damage and help you reclaim your power. But I need to warn you. What you're about to learn will fundamentally change how you view relationships and human behavior. You'll start seeing these manipulation tactics everywhere, and you might realize that you've been a victim of them yourself. This knowledge is both liberating and terrifying, because once you understand how manipulation works, you can never unsee it. The brutal reality is that manipulation in relationships isn't rare or exceptional. It's epidemic. Studies show that emotional abuse occurs in approximately 40% of relationships, but the actual number is likely much higher because most victims don't even realize they're being manipulated. The tactics are so subtle, so gradual, and so psychologically sophisticated that even intelligent, successful people fall victim to them. What makes partner manipulation so insidious is that it doesn't start with obvious abuse. It begins with love bombing, excessive charm, and what feels like the most incredible connection you've ever experienced. The manipulator studies you, learns your vulnerabilities, and then slowly begins to exploit them in ways that feel like care and concern. By the time you realize what's happening, you're already psychologically dependent on them and questioning your own perception of reality. Before we dive into these specific tactics, you need to understand the psychology behind manipulation. Manipulative partners aren't necessarily evil people who wake up plotting to destroy others. Many of them learn these behaviors as survival mechanisms in their own dysfunctional environments. They've discovered that controlling others gives them a sense of power and security that they can't find any other way. The most dangerous manipulators are those who combine genuine charm and intelligence with a complete lack of empathy. They can read people like books, understand exactly what buttons to push, and create elaborate emotional scenarios that serve their needs while making their victims feel grateful for the abuse. These individuals often have personality disorders that make it impossible for them to form healthy, reciprocal relationships. Understanding this psychology is crucial because it helps you recognize that the manipulation isn't your fault, and it's not something you can fix through love, understanding, or better communication. You're dealing with someone whose entire worldview is built around control and dominance, and no amount of accommodation on your part will change that fundamental orientation. The first major category of manipulation tactics involves what I call reality distortion. This is where your partner systematically undermines your perception of events, your memories, and your ability to trust your own judgment. The most common form of this is gaslighting, where they deny things they clearly said or did, insist that events happened differently than you remember, and make you question your own sanity. Gaslighting doesn't happen all at once. It starts with small contradictions that you might dismiss as misunderstandings. Your partner might deny making a plan you clearly remember discussing, or they might insist they never said something hurtful that you distinctly recall. When you bring up these discrepancies, they respond with such confidence and conviction that you start to doubt yourself. Over time, this constant reality distortion creates what psychologists call learned helplessness. You stop trusting your own perceptions and become increasingly dependent on your partner to define what's real and what isn't. This is exactly what they want, because once they control your sense of reality, they control you. Another form of reality distortion is projection, where your partner accuses you of behaviors, thoughts, or motivations that are actually their own. If they're being secretive about their phone, they'll accuse you of being paranoid and controlling. If they're emotionally withdrawing, they'll claim you're needy and clingy. This tactic serves multiple purposes. It deflects attention from their behavior, makes you defensive, and plants seeds of doubt about your own character. The second major category involves emotional manipulation through intermittent reinforcement. This is perhaps the most psychologically addictive aspect of manipulative relationships. Your partner alternates between periods of intense love and affection and periods of coldness, criticism, or withdrawal. This creates a psychological pattern similar to gambling addiction, where you're constantly chasing the high of their approval and attention. During the positive phases, your partner might shower you with compliments, gifts, and promises of how amazing your relationship could be if only you would change certain things about yourself. They make you feel like you're the most special person in the world. And this feeling is so intoxicating that you'll do almost anything to get it back when they withdraw it. The withdrawal phases are carefully calculated to create maximum psychological impact. Your partner becomes distant, critical, or outright cruel, leaving you desperate to figure out what you did wrong and how you can win back their favor. This cycle creates a trauma bond that's incredibly difficult to break because your nervous system becomes addicted to the relief and euphoria that comes when the positive phase returns. What makes this particularly devastating is that you start to believe that the problems in the relationship are your fault. If only you were more understanding, more attractive, more successful, or less sensitive, then your partner would treat you well consistently. You become obsessed with earning their love rather than recognizing that their behavior is a deliberate strategy to maintain control over you. The third category involves social isolation, which is one of the most dangerous aspects of partner manipulation. Your manipulative partner will systematically work to separate you from your support network of family, friends, and colleagues. They do this so gradually and subtly that you might not even notice it's happening until you're completely dependent on them for social connection and validation. This isolation often begins with seemingly reasonable concerns about the people in your life. Your partner might express worry that your best friend is a bad influence, or they might point out ways that your family doesn't appreciate you. They position themselves as your protector against these allegedly harmful relationships, making you feel grateful for their concern. As the isolation progresses, your partner might create conflicts or awkward situations that make you less likely to maintain these relationships. They might be rude to your friends when they visit, start fights before social events, or create emergencies that prevent you from spending time with others. Eventually, maintaining outside relationships becomes so difficult and stressful that you begin to withdraw from them voluntarily. Once you're isolated, your partner becomes your primary source of reality testing, emotional support, and social interaction. This gives them unprecedented power over your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. You lose access to outside perspectives that might help you recognize the manipulation, and you become increasingly dependent on your partner's version of events and their approval of your choices. The fourth category is financial control, which creates practical barriers to leaving the relationship even when you recognize the manipulation. Your partner might insist on controlling all financial accounts, preventing you from working or sabotaging your career opportunities. They might accumulate debt in your name, hide assets, or make financial decisions that benefit them while leaving you vulnerable. Financial abuse often begins with what appears to be generosity or practical arrangement. Your partner might offer to handle all the finances because they're better with money, or they might suggest that you don't need to work because they can provide for both of you. These arrangements might feel romantic or caring at first, but they gradually strip away your financial independence and autonomy. Even if you maintain some financial independence, your partner might use money as a tool of control through guilt, threats, or manipulation. They might remind you constantly of what they've spent on you, threaten to cut off financial support if you don't comply with their demands, or use financial stress as a way to keep you focused on survival rather than examining the relationship dynamics. Understanding these manipulation tactics is just the beginning of protecting yourself. Recognition is the first step, but it's not enough on its own, because manipulative partners are skilled at making you doubt your perceptions and question your judgment. They'll have explanations for every behavior, justifications for every cruel act, and ways of making you feel like you're overreacting or being unfair. The most important thing to remember is that healthy relationships don't require you to constantly question your own sanity, walk on eggshells, or sacrifice your identity to keep the peace. If you find yourself making excuses for your partner's behavior, isolating yourself from people who care about you, or feeling like you're losing yourself in the relationship, these are serious warning signs that deserve your attention. What we're going to explore next are the specific warning signs that appear in the early stages of manipulative relationships, before the tactics become so entrenched that they feel normal. These early indicators are your best opportunity to protect yourself and make informed decisions about whether to continue the relationship or establish stronger boundaries. Boundaries. The early warning signs of manipulation are like smoke before a fire. They're subtle enough that you might dismiss them as quirks or personality traits, but they're consistent patterns that reveal your partner's true intentions. The challenge is that these behaviors often appear during the honeymoon phase when everything else feels perfect, making it easy to rationalize them away. One of the first red flags is excessive monitoring disguised as caring. Your partner shows unusual interest in your daily activities, wants detailed accounts of where you went and who you talked to, and might even show up unexpectedly at your workplace or social events. They frame this as love and concern, saying things like, "I just worry about you," or "I missed you so much, I had to see you." But healthy partners don't need to monitor your every move to feel secure in the relationship. This monitoring often escalates to checking your phone, social media accounts, or email. They might ask for your passwords under the guise of sharing everything in the relationship, or they might pick up your phone and scroll through it while you're in the shower. When you express discomfort with this behavior, they make you feel guilty for having boundaries, suggesting that you must have something to hide if you don't want to share everything. Another early warning sign is the subtle undermining of your confidence and decision-making abilities. Your partner might consistently question your judgment about small things like what to wear, where to eat, or how to handle work situations. They offer their opinions as helpful suggestions, but there's always an underlying message that your choices aren't quite right. This undermining often extends to your achievements and accomplishments. When you share good news about a promotion, a personal goal you've reached, or praise you've received from others, your partner's response feels off. They might offer lukewarm congratulations, followed by concerns about how this will affect your relationship, or they might point out potential problems you hadn't considered. Over time, you start to doubt your own capabilities and rely more heavily on their guidance. Pay attention to how your partner responds when you disagree with them or assert your own preferences. Healthy partners can handle disagreement without making it personal or punitive. Manipulative partners, however, will use various tactics to make you regret standing up for yourself. They might give you the silent treatment, become dramatically upset, or launch into lengthy explanations about how your disagreement hurts them. The goal of these responses isn't to resolve the conflict, but to train you to avoid disagreeing in the future. They want you to learn that asserting yourself comes with emotional consequences that aren't worth the trouble. Gradually, you'll find yourself automatically deferring to their preferences to keep the peace, which is exactly what they're trying to achieve. Watch for patterns of emotional volatility that seem tied to your behavior. Your partner might have extreme emotional reactions to things that seem relatively minor, like you being 5 minutes late or forgetting to text them back immediately. These reactions often feel disproportionate to the situation, but your partner presents them as evidence of how much they care about you and the relationship. What's particularly manipulative about this pattern is that your partner's emotional state becomes your responsibility. You start walking on eggshells, constantly monitoring their mood and adjusting your behavior to prevent these explosive reactions. This hypervigilance is exhausting and gradually erodes your sense of self as you become more focused on managing their emotions than attending to your own needs. Another crucial warning sign is how your partner talks about their previous relationships and other people in their life. Listen carefully to these stories because they reveal important information about how your partner views relationships and handles conflict. If all their exes are described as crazy, abusive, or unreasonable, this should raise immediate red flags. While it's possible that someone has had multiple bad relationships, the way they describe these experiences tells you everything you need to know about their character. Healthy people can acknowledge their own contributions to relationship problems and speak about former partners with some degree of respect or understanding. Manipulative people paint themselves as perpetual victims who were wronged by everyone they've ever been involved with. Similarly, pay attention to how your partner treats service workers, family members, and people they perceive as having less power or status. Someone who is rude to waiters, dismissive of their parents, or condescending to people they consider beneath them is showing you exactly how they'll treat you once the honeymoon phase ends and they no longer feel the need to impress you. The speed at which the relationship progresses is another important indicator. Manipulative partners often push for rapid intimacy and commitment because they want to secure their emotional investment before you have time to see their true character. They might talk about moving in together, meeting family members, or even marriage within the first few weeks or months of dating. This rapid progression feels incredibly romantic and exciting, especially if you've been in relationships where partners were hesitant to commit. But healthy relationships develop gradually, with both partners taking time to really know each other before making major commitments. When someone is pushing for immediate intimacy and future planning, they're usually trying to bypass the natural getting to know you process where red flags would become apparent. Love bombing is perhaps the most intoxicating early warning sign, and it's also the most dangerous because it feels so good. Your partner showers you with excessive attention, compliments, gifts, and declarations of love. They might tell you they've never felt this way about anyone before, that you're perfect for them, or that they can't imagine life without you, all within the first few weeks of knowing you. While intense attraction and connection can certainly happen quickly, genuine love takes time to develop because it's based on truly knowing someone. Love bombing is different because it's not really about you as an individual. It's about creating an intense emotional high that makes you crave more of their attention and approval. The manipulator is essentially getting you addicted to their validation, so they can use its withdrawal as a control mechanism later. Trust your instincts about the consistency between your partner's words and actions. Manipulative people are often charming talkers who can paint beautiful pictures of the future and make compelling promises about how they'll treat you. But their actions tell a different story. They might promise to respect your boundaries while continuing to violate them, or they might claim to support your goals while subtly sabotaging your efforts to achieve them. This inconsistency creates cognitive dissonance in your mind because you want to believe their words, especially when those words are what you want to hear. But your subconscious picks up on the discrepancies between what they say and what they do, creating that nagging feeling that something isn't quite right. Learning to trust this instinct over their explanations is crucial for your psychological safety. One of the most subtle but significant warning signs is how the relationship affects your other relationships and activities. Even in the early stages, you might notice that you're spending less time with friends, skipping activities you used to enjoy, or avoiding conversations with family members about your new partner. This happens because maintaining outside relationships becomes complicated when you're involved with someone manipulative. Your partner might not explicitly forbid these relationships, but they create enough tension, guilt, or conflict around them that it becomes easier to just avoid them. They might schedule romantic plans during times when you usually see friends, express hurt when you choose to spend time with others, or create drama before social events that makes you want to cancel your plans. The key is recognizing that healthy relationships enhance your life rather than requiring you to sacrifice other important relationships and activities. A loving partner wants you to maintain the connections and interests that make you happy, even if it means less time together. They understand that your independence and outside support network actually strengthen the relationship rather than threaten it. Perhaps the most important early warning sign is your own emotional state and self-perception. Notice if you find yourself constantly explaining or defending your partner's behavior to friends and family. Notice if you're making excuses for why they acted a certain way, or minimizing incidents that bothered you. These mental gymnastics are signs that your brain is working overtime to maintain a positive view of someone whose behavior doesn't actually warrant it. Also, pay attention to changes in how you see yourself. Are you becoming more self-critical, more anxious about your appearance or performance, or more uncertain about your own judgment? Are you starting to believe that you're too sensitive, too demanding, or too difficult to please? These shifts in self-perception often happen gradually, but they're powerful indicators that someone is systematically undermining your confidence and self-worth. The challenge with recognizing these early warning signs is that they're often mixed in with genuinely positive experiences and feelings. Your partner might display concerning behavior one day and be absolutely wonderful the next, making it easy to focus on the good times and dismiss the problematic patterns. This is why it's crucial to look at the overall trajectory rather than individual incidents. Document patterns rather than trying to analyze each situation in isolation. Keep a journal or notes on your phone about incidents that made you uncomfortable, even if you can't articulate exactly why they bothered you. Over time, you'll start to see patterns that reveal the true nature of your partner's character and intentions. This documentation also helps you maintain your own sense of reality when your partner tries to deny or minimize these incidents later. What we're going to explore next are the advanced manipulation techniques that come into play once the relationship is more established and you've become emotionally invested. These tactics are more sophisticated and psychologically damaging because they build on the foundation of trust and attachment that's been established during the early phases. Understanding these techniques will help you recognize when manipulation is escalating and give you the knowledge you need to protect yourself before the damage becomes irreversible. The advanced manipulation techniques that emerge in established relationships are where the real psychological warfare begins. By this point, your manipulator has invested months or even years in studying your vulnerabilities, mapping your emotional triggers, and establishing themselves as an indispensable part of your life. They've collected a detailed psychological profile of everything that makes you tick, and now they're ready to weaponize that information against you. One of the most devastating advanced techniques is what I call strategic vulnerability exploitation. Your partner has spent considerable time learning about your deepest insecurities, your childhood wounds, your greatest fears, and your most cherished dreams. In healthy relationships, this intimate knowledge becomes the foundation for deeper love and support. In manipulative relationships, it becomes ammunition for psychological attacks. They'll use your insecurities against you during arguments, bringing up things you shared in confidence during vulnerable moments. If you told them about being abandoned by a parent, they might threaten to leave during conflicts. If you shared concerns about your career, they'll undermine your professional confidence when they want to keep you dependent. If you expressed fears about not being good enough, they'll systematically reinforce those fears through subtle criticism and comparison. What makes this particularly cruel is that they often frame these attacks as honesty or tough love. They'll claim they're just trying to help you face reality or push you to be better, when in fact, they're deliberately targeting your most sensitive areas to maintain control. This betrayal of intimate trust causes profound psychological damage because it teaches you that vulnerability equals danger. Another sophisticated technique is triangulation, where your partner introduces third parties into your relationship dynamics to create jealousy, competition, or confusion. This might involve maintaining inappropriately close relationships with ex-partners, developing intense friendships with people they find attractive, or even comparing you unfavorably to siblings, friends, or colleagues. The goal isn't necessarily to cheat or leave you for someone else. The goal is to keep you feeling insecure and competing for their attention. When you're constantly worried about losing them to someone else, you're more likely to tolerate poor treatment and work harder to earn their approval. You become so focused on proving you're better than the competition that you lose sight of whether your partner is actually treating you well. Triangulation also serves to isolate you from potential allies. If your partner maintains drama-filled relationships with multiple people, you'll find yourself constantly dealing with conflicts and complications that drain your energy and attention. You might start avoiding social situations because they're always tense or uncomfortable, which further isolates you from outside perspectives and support. The manipulation technique that causes the most long-term psychological damage is what therapists call coercive control. This involves your partner gradually taking over more and more aspects of your life until you feel completely helpless without them. They become the sole decision maker about major life choices, the gatekeeper of social interactions, and the authority on what's real and what isn't. Coercive control often begins with seemingly helpful offers. Your partner might volunteer to handle certain responsibilities because they're better at them or because they want to reduce your stress. They might offer to manage your finances, make social plans, or handle communications with family members. Initially, this feels supportive and caring, like having a personal assistant who wants to make your life easier. But gradually, you realize that you've lost the ability to make independent decisions. Your partner needs to approve your purchases, your social plans, even your daily schedule. When you try to assert independence, they respond with hurt, anger, or elaborate explanations about why your choices are wrong or dangerous. Eventually, it becomes easier to just let them make decisions rather than deal with the conflict that comes with asserting autonomy. The psychological impact of coercive control is devastating because it systematically dismantles your sense of personal agency. You begin to doubt your ability to function without your partner's guidance and support. Simple decisions become overwhelming because you've lost practice making them independently. This learned helplessness extends beyond the relationship, affecting your confidence in work situations, friendships, and family relationships. One of the most insidious aspects of advanced manipulation is the way it rewrites your personal history and identity. Your partner becomes the narrator of your life story, interpreting your past experiences, defining your character traits, and predicting your future capabilities. They might convince you that you were never really happy before meeting them, that your previous relationships were shallow or meaningless, or that your family never truly understood you. This historical revisionism serves multiple purposes. It makes you more dependent on your partner for self-understanding and validation. It discredits outside perspectives that might challenge their version of reality. And it creates a narrative where they're the hero who rescued you from a life of confusion and unhappiness. Over time, you might find yourself adopting their interpretation of your own experiences and personality. You start to believe their assessment of your strengths and weaknesses, their explanations for why things happened in your past, and their predictions about what you're capable of achieving. This identity erosion is one of the most difficult aspects of manipulation to recover from because it affects your fundamental sense of self. The manipulation technique that's becoming increasingly common in our digital age is technological surveillance and control. Your partner might insist on having access to all your passwords, install tracking apps on your phone, or monitor your internet activity. They justify this as transparency in the relationship or concern for your safety, but it's actually about maintaining constant surveillance and control. This digital monitoring extends their presence into every aspect of your life, even when you're physically apart. You might find yourself self-censoring your communications with friends, avoiding certain websites or social media activities, or feeling anxious about your online behavior because you know it's being watched and potentially judged. The psychological impact of constant surveillance is profound. It creates a state of hypervigilance where you're always aware of being watched and potentially criticized. This chronic stress affects your mental health, your ability to form authentic relationships with others, and your sense of privacy and autonomy. Even innocent activities start to feel secretive or wrong because, they'll be scrutinized and potentially used against you. Advanced manipulators are also skilled at using your own values and morals against you. They study what you care about most deeply, whether it's loyalty, honesty, family, spirituality, or social justice, and then frame their demands in terms of those values. If you value loyalty, they'll claim that questioning their behavior shows disloyalty to the relationship. If you value honesty, they'll accuse you of being deceptive when you maintain privacy boundaries. This moral manipulation is particularly effective because it makes you feel guilty for having normal relationship boundaries and expectations. You start to believe that protecting yourself or asserting your needs conflicts with being a good person. Your own conscience becomes a tool that your partner can use to control your behavior and suppress your instincts for self-preservation. The technique of manufactured dependence is where your partner systematically undermines your ability to function independently in various areas of life. They might discourage you from learning new skills, sabotage your efforts at self-improvement, or create situations where you need to rely on them for basic tasks. This creates practical barriers to leaving the relationship while also damaging your self-confidence. Manufactured dependence can be financial, social, emotional, or practical. Your partner might handle all interactions with mechanics, doctors, or service providers, so you never learn to manage these relationships yourself. They might discourage you from developing friendships or maintaining family connections, so you become socially isolated. They might undermine your professional confidence, so you doubt your ability to succeed without their support. The result is that leaving the relationship feels impossible, not just emotionally, but practically. You genuinely don't know how you would handle various aspects of adult life without your partner's involvement. And this practical dependence keeps you trapped even when you recognize that the relationship is harmful. Perhaps the most sophisticated manipulation technique is what I call preemptive victim playing. Your partner becomes skilled at predicting when you might assert boundaries, express dissatisfaction, or consider leaving the relationship. Before you can voice these concerns, they launch into elaborate displays of vulnerability, depression, or crisis that demand your immediate attention and care. This technique is devastatingly effective because it exploits your empathy and compassion. Just when you're gathering the courage to address problems in the relationship, your partner suddenly needs your support for a work crisis, family emergency, or mental health struggle. You end up in the position of providing comfort and care instead of advocating for your own needs, and the original issues get swept aside in the face of their more immediate crisis. Over time, you learn to suppress your own concerns and complaints because expressing them feels selfish when your partner is struggling. You become hyper-attuned to their emotional state and needs while losing touch with your own feelings and requirements. This creates a relationship dynamic where you're constantly giving support but never receiving it, all while feeling guilty for wanting more. The cumulative effect of these advanced manipulation techniques is what psychologists call complex trauma. Unlike single-incident trauma, complex trauma develops over extended periods of psychological abuse and control. It affects your ability to trust your own perceptions, form healthy relationships, and maintain a stable sense of identity and self-worth. Victims of complex trauma often experience symptoms similar to those seen in prisoners of war or cult survivors. They may have difficulty making decisions, experience chronic anxiety and depression, struggle with memory and concentration problems, and develop a fragmented sense of self. The manipulation has been so thorough and systematic that recovery requires not just leaving the relationship, but rebuilding fundamental aspects of psychological functioning. Understanding these advanced techniques isn't just academic knowledge. It's practical information that can help you recognize when manipulation is escalating beyond the point where boundaries or communication can fix the problem. When you see these patterns emerging in your relationship, it's time to start planning your exit strategy rather than hoping things will improve with time or effort. The next crucial phase of protecting yourself involves understanding the specific strategies that manipulative partners use to prevent you from leaving, even when you recognize the abuse. These retention tactics are often the most dangerous because they're deployed when your partner senses that their control is slipping and you're beginning to see through their manipulation. Their manipulation, the retention tactics that manipulative partners deploy when they sense you're pulling away, represent the most dangerous phase of an abusive relationship. This is when the mask completely comes off and you see the true extent of their desperation to maintain control. They've invested too much time and energy in breaking you down to simply let you walk away, and they'll use increasingly extreme measures to keep you trapped in their web of psychological manipulation. One of the most common retention tactics is the escalation of love bombing, combined with dramatic promises of change. When your partner realizes that their usual control methods aren't working and you're starting to question the relationship, they'll suddenly transform back into the person you fell in love with during the honeymoon phase. They'll shower you with affection, gifts, and attention while making elaborate promises about how different things will be moving forward. This renewed love bombing feels incredibly genuine because your partner is genuinely panicked about losing control over you. Their desperation translates into intense focus and effort that can be intoxicating after months or years of neglect and abuse. They might plan romantic getaways, write heartfelt letters about how much you mean to them, or make grand gestures that remind you of why you fell for them in the first place. What makes this tactic so effective is that it feeds into your natural desire to believe that the person you love is capable of change. You want to believe that the romantic, attentive partner is their true self, and that the manipulative, controlling behavior was just a phase they're now ready to leave behind. This hope becomes a trap that keeps you invested in a relationship that will inevitably return to its abusive patterns once your partner feels secure in your commitment again. The promises of change that accompany this love-bombing phase are carefully crafted to address your specific complaints and concerns. If you've expressed frustration about their controlling behavior, they'll promise to give you more freedom. If you've complained about their treatment of your friends and family, they'll suddenly become interested in building better relationships with the people in your life. If you felt neglected, they'll commit to regular date nights and quality time together. These promises feel incredibly validating because they demonstrate that your partner has been listening to your concerns and is willing to work on the relationship. But what you don't realize is that they're simply telling you what you want to hear in order to buy time and reset the manipulation cycle. They have no genuine intention of maintaining these changes long term because they fundamentally don't believe you deserve to be treated well. Another powerful retention tactic is the deployment of mutual trauma bonding. Your partner will remind you of all the difficult experiences you've weathered together, the secrets you've shared, and the unique understanding that exists between you. They'll emphasize how no one else could possibly understand you the way they do or love you despite your flaws and imperfections. This trauma bonding rhetoric is designed to make you feel like leaving would mean abandoning not just a relationship, but a profound connection that can never be replicated. They'll remind you of times when they supported you through crisis, moments when they were the only person who believed in you and ways that your lives have become intertwined that make separation feel impossible. What's particularly manipulative about this approach is that it contains elements of truth. You have shared difficult experiences and intimate moments with this person. They do know you in ways that others don't. But what they're not acknowledging is that much of the trauma you've bonded over was either created or exacerbated by their own manipulative behavior. The understanding they claim to have of you has been weaponized against you repeatedly. The tactic of manufactured crisis becomes especially prominent during retention phases. Your partner will suddenly develop serious health problems, family emergencies, or professional disasters that require your immediate support and attention. These crises are often real situations that they're deliberately amplifying or timing strategically to coincide with your attempts to create distance in the relationship. The message behind these manufactured crises is clear. How could you possibly abandon someone who needs you so desperately? They position themselves as vulnerable and dependent on your care, making any attempt to leave feel cruel and selfish. You find yourself postponing difficult conversations or relationship decisions because it feels heartless to add to their suffering during such a challenging time. What makes this tactic particularly insidious is that it exploits your natural compassion and sense of responsibility. Your partner knows that you're a caring person who wouldn't abandon someone in genuine need, so they create situations where leaving feels morally impossible. They time their crises perfectly to coincide with moments when you're gathering courage to assert boundaries or express dissatisfaction with the relationship. Financial entanglement often becomes a weapon during retention phases. If your partner controls shared accounts, has access to your credit, or has created financial dependencies, they'll leverage these connections to make leaving practically impossible. They might hide money, accumulate debt in your name, or threaten to destroy your credit if you attempt to separate your finances. Even if they don't control your money directly, they'll emphasize the financial costs of separation. They'll remind you of shared investments, joint purchases, or financial goals that would be derailed by ending the relationship. They might threaten expensive legal battles over shared assets, or claim that you owe them money for various contributions they've made to your life together. This financial manipulation serves multiple purposes beyond just creating practical barriers to leaving. It also reinforces their narrative that you're incapable of managing your life independently and that separating from them would result in financial ruin. They want you to believe that your economic security depends entirely on maintaining the relationship, regardless of how miserable it makes you. The weaponization of children or pets represents one of the most emotionally devastating retention tactics. If you have children together, your partner will threaten to pursue custody battles, restrict your access, or move away with the children if you attempt to leave. They might claim that divorce would traumatize the children or that single parenthood would damage their development and future prospects. Even if you don't have children together, they might threaten harm to pets or use animals as emotional leverage. They know how attached you are to shared pets and will threaten to keep them, hurt them, or surrender them to shelters if you leave. This tactic is particularly cruel because it forces you to choose between your own well-being and the safety of innocent creatures you love. The use of children and pets as leverage reveals the depths of your partner's willingness to cause collateral damage in their quest to maintain control. They're essentially holding hostages and threatening to harm them if you don't comply with their demands. This creates an impossible situation where protecting yourself feels like abandoning those who depend on you for care and protection. Suicide threats or self-harm behaviors often emerge as last resort retention tactics when other methods aren't working. Your partner might threaten to kill themselves if you leave, engage in self-destructive behaviors, or claim that they can't live without you. These threats are designed to make you feel responsible for their well-being and survival, creating a psychological prison where leaving feels like murder. What's particularly manipulative about suicide threats is that they completely shift the focus away from your legitimate concerns about the relationship and onto their emotional crisis. Instead of addressing the reasons why you want to leave, you're suddenly in the position of providing suicide prevention and crisis intervention. Your role changes from partner seeking resolution to caretaker responsible for keeping someone alive. These threats often feel genuine because they're delivered with such emotional intensity and desperation. Your partner might have a history of depression or mental health struggles that make the threat seem credible. But what you need to understand is that using suicide threats to control someone else's behavior is itself a form of abuse, regardless of whether the threats are genuine or manipulative. The tactic of social manipulation and reputation destruction becomes especially vicious during retention phases. Your partner will reach out to your friends, family members, and colleagues to share their version of your relationship problems. They'll position themselves as the victim of your unreasonable behavior while painting you as unstable, cruel, or mentally unbalanced. This social manipulation serves multiple purposes. It isolates you from potential sources of support by turning people against you. It creates social pressure to reconcile with your partner because everyone believes they're the reasonable party trying to save the relationship. And it plants seeds of doubt in your mind about whether your perceptions of the relationship are accurate. Your partner might share private information about your mental health struggles, past traumas, or personal failures with your social circle under the guise of seeking advice or support. They'll frame your attempts to set boundaries or leave the relationship as evidence of psychological instability or cruel selfishness that requires intervention from concerned friends and family. The result is that at the exact moment when you most need support and validation, your social network becomes contaminated with your partner's version of reality. People who should be supporting your decision to prioritize your well-being instead pressure you to work things out with someone they've been convinced is the victim of your unreasonable behavior. Technology becomes a powerful retention tool through stalking and surveillance escalation. Your partner might install tracking software on your devices, create fake social media accounts to monitor your online activity, or use shared accounts and passwords to maintain access to your digital life even after you've tried to establish boundaries. This technological stalking creates a sense that escape is impossible because your partner always knows where you are, who you're talking to, and what you're doing. They might show up unexpectedly at locations you've visited Reference private conversations you've had with others, or demonstrate knowledge of your activities that they shouldn't have access to. The psychological impact of being constantly monitored is devastating. You feel like you're living in a fishbowl where every action is scrutinized and potentially used against you. This surveillance often continues even after the relationship ends, making it difficult to move on and rebuild your life because your ex-partner maintains the ability to intrude into your new reality. Perhaps the most sophisticated retention tactic is the strategic deployment of flying monkeys, people in your social circle who have been recruited to advocate for your partner and pressure you to reconcile. These might be mutual friends who have been fed a distorted version of your relationship problems, family members who believe your partner's claims about wanting to change, or even professional counselors who have been manipulated into seeing your partner as the victim. Flying monkeys often approach you with seemingly genuine concern about your decision to end the relationship. They might share stories about how devastated your partner is, how much they've changed, or how rare it is to find someone who loves you so deeply. These interventions feel like objective third-party perspectives, but they're actually extensions of your partner's manipulation campaign. What makes flying monkeys so effective is that they often genuinely believe they're helping both of you work through a rough patch in an otherwise good relationship. They don't realize they're being used as weapons in a psychological warfare campaign. Their sincere concern and care makes their pressure feel more legitimate than direct manipulation from your partner. The cumulative effect of these retention tactics is to create what feels like an inescapable psychological prison. Every avenue of escape seems blocked by practical barriers, emotional manipulation, or social pressure. Your partner has systematically closed off your options while making you feel responsible for their well-being and the well-being of others who might be affected by your decision to leave. Understanding these retention tactics is crucial because they represent the point where manipulation transitions from psychological abuse to psychological warfare. Your partner is no longer trying to maintain a functional relationship. They're fighting a battle for control that they're willing to win at any cost. Recognizing these patterns helps you understand that the relationship has moved beyond the point where communication, compromise, or counseling can create positive change. The intensity and desperation of retention tactics actually provides valuable information about your partner's true character. When someone is willing to threaten suicide, destroy your reputation, use children as weapons, or engage in stalking behavior to prevent you from leaving, they're showing you exactly how little they respect your autonomy and well-being. These behaviors reveal that their love is actually possessive control disguised as affection. What we need to explore next are the practical strategies for safely extracting yourself from a manipulative relationship. Once you've recognized the patterns and made the decision to leave. This extraction phase is often the most dangerous because your partner's retention tactics will escalate as they realize their control is genuinely slipping away. The safety planning and exit strategies we'll discuss could literally save your life and sanity during this critical transition period. Extracting yourself from a manipulative relationship requires the same level of strategic planning that your partner used to trap you in the first place. This isn't a spontaneous decision that you can execute on impulse. It's a carefully orchestrated operation that requires preparation, resources, and often outside support to execute safely. The biggest mistake people make is assuming they can simply announce their intention to leave and walk away cleanly. Your partner has spent months or years studying your patterns, learning your weaknesses, and establishing control systems that won't simply evaporate because you've decided you're done. They've invested too much psychological energy in breaking you down to accept your departure gracefully. In fact, the period immediately following your decision to leave is often when manipulation escalates to its most dangerous levels. The first phase of safe extraction involves what I call stealth preparation. This means making practical arrangements and gathering resources without alerting your partner to your intentions. Any premature revelation of your plans will trigger their retention tactics and potentially put you in physical or financial danger. You need to operate with the assumption that your partner is monitoring your activities and communications. Document everything starting immediately. Create a secret record of incidents, conversations, and behaviors that you can access from outside your shared living space. Use a separate email account that your partner doesn't know about. Store information in cloud services they can't access, or keep physical documents at a trusted friend's house. This documentation serves multiple purposes during the extraction process. First, it helps you maintain clarity about why you're leaving when your partner inevitably launches into campaigns designed to make you doubt your decision. The manipulative tactics we discussed earlier will intensify dramatically once they realize you're serious about ending the relationship. Having concrete records of their behavior prevents them from gaslighting you into believing the problems weren't as serious as you remember. Second, this documentation provides evidence if you need to involve law enforcement, family courts, or legal professionals during the separation process. Manipulative partners often escalate to stalking, harassment, or financial sabotage when they can't maintain control through psychological means. Having detailed records of their behavior patterns helps authorities understand the seriousness of your situation. Third, documentation helps other people in your life understand why you're making decisions that might seem drastic or sudden to outside observers. Your partner has likely been managing their public image carefully, presenting themselves as a loving, concerned partner, while reserving their manipulative behavior for private moments. Your records help validate your experience to friends and family who might not understand the reality of your situation. Financial preparation requires extreme discretion, but is absolutely crucial for safe extraction. If your partner controls shared accounts or has access to your financial information, you need to quietly establish independent resources that they can't access or sabotage. This might mean opening a secret bank account, slowly accumulating cash reserves, or documenting the location of important financial documents. The key is making these preparations gradually and in ways that don't trigger suspicion. Sudden large withdrawals or dramatic changes in spending patterns will alert your partner that something is happening. Instead, you might claim small amounts of cash back during regular shopping trips, redirect automatic deposits to new accounts, or sell items to accumulate discrete funds. If your partner monitors your online activity, avoid researching financial institutions or making account inquiries from devices or internet connections they can access. Use public computers, trusted friends' devices, or create new email accounts that aren't connected to your shared digital ecosystem. The goal is maintaining complete operational security during this preparation phase. Your survival depends on understanding these manipulation patterns before they destroy you completely. The tactics we've exposed today aren't just relationship problems you can fix through better communication or couples therapy. They're psychological warfare strategies designed to strip away your identity, your resources, and your ability to think independently. Once you recognize these patterns in your own relationship, you have two choices: remain trapped in a system designed to exploit you, or gather the courage to reclaim your life and freedom. The knowledge you now possess is your weapon against manipulation. Use it wisely, because your future self is counting on the decisions you make today.